Communications and Knowledge Management Officer of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Thank you for joining us in this special celebration of World Environment Day. Today, we will have the opportunity to know firsthand what inspired our winning photographers of the first Make Mercury History photo contest. And we will have the privilege of speaking with the filmmaker Andrew Levitas, whose 2020 film Minamata has captivated audiences with its powerful storytelling that lays the foundation of the global action on addressing mercury pollution. But before we formally start, here you have some housekeeping notes. This event is being recorded and streamed on our YouTube channel. After the session, you will be able to rewatch it and share it broadly. And we invite you to type your questions to panelists on the chat, and we will do our best to address them during the event. Let me now hand over to the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury, Monica Stankiewicz, who will deliver some opening remarks. Over to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Anna. Good day, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants. Welcome to this special celebration of the World Environment Day. We are thrilled to have you joining us on an event that promises to be enlightening and inspiring. Today, we have a unique opportunity to hear from the talented individuals who have won the first Make Mercury History photo contest. Through their lens, they have revealed the captivating stories connected with each image, serving as a powerful reminder for the urgent needs to address mercury pollution. We are honored to be in the company of a remarkable filmmaker, Andrew Levitas, whose moving film, Minamata, has impacted audiences across the globe with its compelling narrative, prompting us to reflect on the impact of our actions and on the importance of preserving health of people and the planet. Winners, Mr. Levitas, and jury members will provide valuable insights into the transformative power of photography and its ability to drive positive change. Without further ado, I invite you all to witness the talent and creativity of the winners and finalists of the Make Mercury History photo contest. With that, let me hand over to you, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, for your encouraging words. And Pablo, if you may put on the video. Thank you. To all the Make Mercury History photo contest participants who share their creations and the many worldwide stories that inspire environmental action. Now we turn to Andrew Levitas, who is for the second time joining us in a conversation, and hopefully there will be many more. With the Minamata movie, Andrew sheds light on the devastating effects of mercury poisoning on the inhabitants of the Japanese bay of Minamata through the true story and the lens of the photojournalist Eugene Smith. The film is set in the 70s when a chemical company was discharging industrial waste containing mercury into the sea. As a result, the local community, including fishermen and their families, suffered from Minamata disease, a neurological disorder caused by mercury poisoning. Smith portrayed by Johnny Depp, arrives in Minamata and forms a bond with the affected community. He is determined to expose the truth and bring international attention to the ongoing tragedy. Andrew, welcome again to the Secretariat. It is pretty early in New York.
That's all right. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure on this fantastic day.
Yes, celebrating World Environment Day.
That's it.
Could you share with us what inspired you to film about Eugene Smith and the story of Minamata?
Sure. You know, it started really when I was quite young. I had seen Smith's work along with other uh, great photographers or photo essayists, and the work struck a chord in me. I must have been 10 or 12 years old, and there was something in the work that I didn't quite understand, but that made me feel good. And I never could figure out why, or at that age, I couldn't figure out why, in looking at an image that seemed on the surface quite grotesque or sad or upsetting, and seemed to reflect all the bad things that humanity could do to each other. I somehow felt uplifted in some way or inspired to do something. And as I grew and became an adult, although it's questionable if I'm yet an adult, but if as I grew towards that, I realized that it was this idea that you could find something singular in the world, and you could also identify hope and passion and the best of humanity reflected against some of those horrific moments, and that you could and as I progressed, I realized you really could affect change. You really could stop the world. You really could bring attention to things. And so, as an artist in general, that work inspired me to step up and define how I wanted to approach my life and my career, and my impact on the world. And it was clear that this was an area that I was um, interested in as a creative, and I could marry those two sides of myself together. And so years later, when I was looking for the story to tell, something that could move us, that could hopefully inspire others, especially at a time when there were, this is a few years ago now when we started this journey, there were quite a few sort of you were reading about the demise of photography. You were reading about how 99% of all of the photographs ever taken in history had been taken in the prior few years, and there were all these articles about how that impact was being lost, or that opportunity was being lost. And so I looked back at this moment and this story and felt like it was time to bring it back. And of course, the patients and victims and their families still needed the support in Minamata, as well as it's a kind of story that I think has and can inspire future generations.
Well, such an inspiration from a really young kid. During the movie, Smith carries a heavy backpack of war nightmares, and he is portrayed as an absent father and says he always disappoints people. But at the same time, he establishes a captivating connection with the kid on the camera, and he shows unbeatable commitment and respect to the villagers with Eileen. And most impressively, his pictures, as you just like mentioned, from this angle of humanity, display plenty of humanity within the tragedy, and one cannot stop looking at them. And this is impressive. How you have constructed the character and this visual flow from photography to the film.
Sure. So we had a lot of different tools. It was the objective of the filmmaking was to express all of this work, um, all of this idea, or as much as we could, and take millions of frames and stitch them together, and both um, educate an audience on the issues, the people, inspire something out of them, but also, in order to make that work, we needed to teach them the language, because it was very much about the issues. It was very much about Minamata, and it was very much about the people of Minamata, but it was also about the photographer, and it was also about our way in. And I find this such an interesting topic in particular, and I'm so glad to be here because as a filmmaker, I'm acutely aware of the fact that the impact that an image can have is clear to me, right? In a singular snap, a moment can be captured that can uplift and depress and inspire and stop the world. A singularity in an image can change the way that any of us see the world or see ourselves or each other or any idea or issue. And it bridges the divide between people, between cultures, between enemies even. And a singular image doesn't have to be well taken, or I mean, in Smith's case, they really were, but they doesn't have to be well taken or artistically or aesthetically beautiful even to be able to give us focus or inspire something to change the world. It just needs to capture essential truth. And in particular, when we're talking about environmental issues or broader humanitarian issues, it's really about a moment that makes us feel, a moment that connects us, a moment that tells a deeper essential truth that can spark, spark the light of a fire or a drop that of water that builds a wave, right? The singular image can make this enormous difference in the world, and it's clear around Minamata and Mercury, but in so many ways, since photography is so broadly consumed and accessible, and as a filmmaker, I'm committed to the moving picture and sound and millions of frames which are placed next to each other. And so while I've always hoped that, and with this film, I hoped that it could push policy and inspire and help folks, by its very nature, cinema can't ever really represent, even with all that stuff, it can't really represent a moment or a movement the way that a photograph can. And that's so interesting to me. A million images that are like painstakingly crafted together for maximum meaning and impact are less able to represent a moment or a movement than a singular, unmoving, soundless still frame. And, that's something that when I think about how we made this film and why we made this film, it's an incredibly important data point to think about because I think it, or I hope it doesn't get lost on younger artists who have this passion to affect change, especially as we've seen some of this beautiful work today. But we also see the toll that this kind of work and commitment can take on the creators because by nature of what that work is, and in order to get that singular image, that thing that really can encapsulate a whole feeling, a whole idea, a whole movement, the photographer has to be so deeply immersed in the subject matter that they have to know where to look, right? They have to, it's in real time, it's different, it's documenting. But they have to take all that deep understanding on in such a way that they can telegraph or really know where to be looking. And it was important to me to express that in the way that we made this film. And like I said, ultimately, this was about trying to do in many ways what Smith did, but to a newer audience, an additional audience. I needed to refresh that message because people were forgetting. But I also wanted to touch on the great sacrifice that those photographers make and also honor it because I don't think that it's talked about quite enough. And it's a big trade like anything else in life. You have to choose where to put your energy and your passion and your love and where you can make that impact. And so just meaningful for us to put that forward.
Great. And in fact, during the movie, not only Smith tells Eileen, when Eileen wants to take pictures, that you can take the soul of the people portrayed, but also it takes part of your soul as a photographer. And that's a deep commitment to photographer from the photographer. And going deeper in this direction, also in the film, Eileen tells Smith, we need global attention. We need you. That's way before the other sentence. But how does his photography, as depicted in the movie, contribute to the theme of inspiring environmental action?
Sure. Well, of course, the fact that the work naturally did that, it was easy in retrospect, right? As a filmmaker to go back and look at the impact that this image had, look at this impact that that look at what has been a success in many ways as a result of that. But in fact, this belief, I think, that I hope that we captured in that moment of not just Smith, but of Eileen and of others that they were coming in contact with, was this call to action, this feeling that if you could understand, deeply understand what's happening, if you could get underneath the experience of the humans that were dealing with not just being victims or not just being patients, but also having to fight to be heard, having to fight to be seen. There's so much more in these issues, right? That touch on so many different threads, that this idea that this man could not only inspire after, right? Could not only inspire once he's taken these photographs, but actually inspire by being there, by being present. It's almost I think there are so many communities that are marginalized, so many of us that are victimized and put into a corner, and not thought about or not looked at. I think something that's quite scary is suffering alone, and suffering where there's no one. It's like you don't exist, and your life has no value. And I think something that's quite exceptional that many of these photographers do, or they offer, without even realizing it probably, is just by being there, just by engaging, I think they add a level of breath, a level of just a re-energizing in some ways that just says, you exist. This is real. We're capturing it. I think that's something that we all recognize as part of the human condition, is a need to just be seen in some way. And when you've been victimized by a big corporation or by society in a larger context, knowing that your story is being told, I think, is incredibly comforting and can also empower you to push forward.
Oh, thank you very much, Andrew, for your art, for bringing hope and meaning, and for urging a strong commitment to global environmental causes. With your permission, Andrew, we will project the movie trailer and then get back to you, the jury and the members and the winners, after their presentations. See you in a while.
I'm the greatest photographer that Life magazine has ever had. But I'm tired, my body is older than I am, and I'm broke.
You're the single most impossible photographer that Life has ever had.
Well, if you say that, then.
There's a company that's dumping toxic waste into the sea. People are dying.
The cover-up is as much of a story as the story itself.
For 15 years, they knew. And they kept poisoning people.
There's a resistance underground.
We are not so easy to keep quiet.
We need global attention.
With you, we have a better chance.
I'm here to help if I can, but I need you to help me.
Mr. Smith, would you like something to drink?
I'd rather wait until I get outside the building before I drop dead.
Let what is happening here play out here, where it belongs, in Minamata.
It's been made very clear to me now that I am seriously unwelcome here.
Listen to me, I need the pictures, Gene. We're gonna do this together.
Pick up your camera. Point. Focus. Click.
That's how you tell your story.
Well, now turning to the winner's story, we have here with us Elisabeth Zavoli from Italy, who won the Mercury pollution category with her 2014 photo, Not Only Miners, shot in Taiwan, West Sumbawa, Indonesia. Florian Schulze from Germany won the category about the people working to phase out mercury with his picture Make Dental Amalgam History. And the Polish photographer Janusz Jurek won the environment category with his 2021 picture titled Rest, taken in Heraklion, Crete, Greece. Congratulations to all for winning in the three categories of our first Make Mercury History photo contest. Elisabetta, we'll start with you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Please tell us a bit about yourself as a photographer and the story behind the winning picture under the category Mercury pollution. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Yes, the reason why I decided to focus on this topic in Indonesia had a root in my university background. I moved to Indonesia in 2012 and lived there for 6 years, working as a freelance photographer and documentary photographer. And but before, I had a background in chemistry, and the thesis of my master degree was actually about the mercury pollution of an Italian lagoon, the lagoon close to the city of Ravenna, which was polluted by the discharge of wastewater full of mercury as a catalysator by the chemical plants of the industrial area. And this wastewater full of mercury was discharged into the lagoon until 1976, which was the first year of the new law on the waste into the environment, managing the waste into the environment, which introduced restrictions on the concentration of certain pollutants and chemicals to be discharged into the environment. So until 1976, this lagoon was treated as a wasteland for mercury. And after 1976, it became a site of study regarding the various species in which mercury can be found in an ecosystem. When I became a photojournalist specialized in environmental issues, and when I found myself in Indonesia in 2012, and I discovered the presence of ASGM, the artisanal small-scale gold mining in Indonesia. And from my scientific background, I knew everything about the pollution, the environmental pollution of mercury. Then I decided to take a step and investigate this topic in Indonesia. And it was kind of closing of a life circle for me, because what I have learned my scientific background helped me understand much better the impacts of mercury in the Indonesian environment and on Indonesian people. And so I started to focus on two regions of Indonesia. The island of Lombok, and I visited the area of Sekotong in the southwest of Lombok, and the Sumbawa, the area of Taliwang, which is in the west part of the island. And from Taliwang, this picture came out, and it was about the wife and the daughter of a miner who showed me the bottle full of liquid mercury the husband used to extract the gold from the ore from the ground. They used to grind together with water and liquid mercury. And she was very candid in showing me the bottle full of liquid mercury. They used to keep it very close to their bed in the tiny hut of the miners' village in which they live. I worked on this investigation together with an Indonesian researcher of the University of Mataram, Dr. Baik Dewi Krisnayanti. And because, of course, I need someone expert in the subject and local to introduce me to the communities, and who had already contacted with the communities and worked together with the communities. And from our collaboration, also another scientific research came out, thanks to a collaboration between my previous university, the Italian university where I studied, which is Bologna University, and the University of Mataram. So after a year of documenting as a photojournalist the SGM sites in Lombok and Sumbawa, we started with the scientific research which was related to the determination of mercury in the air of people living in and around ASGM sites. So not only miners, but also the wives, the children, and all the workers, not directly related to mining, but for example, people with shops selling foods, but people that gravitate around ASGM sites. And what this research found was that, for example, the person with the highest level of mercury in the air in Taliwang was a woman. She was not a miner. She was the owner of a food shop close to the mining site. So this is this demonstrates how once mercury is released in the environment, it can goes really everywhere. It goes everywhere and accumulates in the body of people not even directly involved in the mining activities. And this is extremely important and extremely dangerous for the ecosystem and the people.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. Very impressive and amazing human picture, and quite a background you have. And I hope that you can keep inspiring people and driving environmental attention. Thank you for capturing this very special moment. Now we're going to Florian. Welcome you too. This is now your turn to let us know yourself and the story behind your winning picture for the category working to phase out mercury. Over to you, Florian.
Thank you very much, Anna. So it's we created this picture, and I have to explain that I'm representing the group, which is, if you can show the picture, which is on that picture, which was protesting. And physically, the picture was taken by Heinz Eckel. But who captured this special moment? We were in this occasion, and this is I'm very glad that Andrew is now here with us, because we met before, just 100 meters from that point. It's in the center of Berlin, when Minamata was presented at the Berlin Film Festival a couple of years ago. And so I'm not a photographer. We are activists, and we are working for phasing out, especially mercury-containing dental amalgam. And we were a group of younger people, but we also were representing or working with older people, with victims, which are really in serious conditions because of their feelings. And we are not saying that all feelings are or the dental amalgam feelings are bad. You have many examples of people which are not harmed from them, but you have also the other side, and these are victims, and there are several conditions. You can have a reaction between this mercury filling and gold filling. If it's close by, you can have amalgam fillings which are just not well made. You have dentists are using 50% liquid mercury, which is mixed with a powder. And in many countries, and also in Germany, 20 years ago, these fillings were hand mixed. So there were assistants to the dentists which were pouring liquid mercury, sometimes in the hand or just on the plates. And then you mix it together with a powder, but it should be 50%. And if this percentage is not right, you can imagine that more or less mercury can be released in the body later, and more or less stable these fillings can be. Unfortunately, this and then the practice of using liquid mercury was stopped in Germany, and we are very glad that the Minamata Convention decided that it should be stopped globally from the 28th September of this year. So parties should implement to stop this practice of using liquid mercury. And we are in this occasion, it was in June 2018, the European Commission implemented the Minamata Convention on Mercury with some additional measures. And the main achievement we had was that dental amalgam should no longer be used for children until 15 years, pregnant and breastfeeding women. And the deadline was the 1st July on 2018, where each member state should implement this phase out. And we said, okay, this is a great achievement for us, but it's still not enough. You are in Germany and other countries dentists are using alternatives which are far safer than dental amalgam. They are also safe, but you always can optimize quality. But we know that dental amalgam is a hazardous waste. So when it comes out of the mouth, it is considered hazardous waste. It needs to be stored underground. And for not harming the environment and the health of the people. So our picture we wanted to create is to show that we were going in front of the German Dental Association, and we were then walking to another building where the environmental minister was having a conference. So we wanted to show that dental amalgam is hazardous waste and should not belong into the mouth. So it's something you should not put. It's started to be banned in all kind of products, and it just seems crazy to continue putting it, storage it in the mouth. So we were grouping this going there with a group and protested, and Heinz then took this this picture, and we were able to use it. So, but of course, we had some media presence, and that's what we need. We were writing articles about our concerns and our call to the minister. So this helps to get to create the attention it deserves, and I'm quite hopeful that, and this is very current, that besides this mandatory implementation for reducing dental amalgam to its encapsulated form, now is the Minamata Convention. The parties decided to take measures like the European Commission did 5 years ago, to phase out dental amalgam, or at least to reduce, or the minimum would be to recommend against the use for children and pregnant and breastfeeding women. And we hope that these measures are now implemented in by September in I think it's now 141 countries worldwide, and that they take these steps looking forward, because it's an outdated material dental amalgam with 50% mercury. It is seriously contributing not only to the health risk but also to the pollution of the environment.
Thank you, Florian. And activism is part of the common journey to raise public awareness, and it not only matters in the South, but we can see that it's a global matter. Unfortunately, Janus, who won the environment category, has not been able to connect with us, but has sent a video message about his winning picture, Rest, shot in Heraklion, Greece. Let's watch it.
Hello everyone, I'm Janusz Jurek. I'm visual artist, graphic designer, illustrator, and street photographer. I'm thrilled to have won first place. It's very motivating for me. Thank you very much. I love traveling at the world and photographing as documentarian. My photos capture authentic and unposed situation. I took this photo on Greece, on the island of Crete. The simple, ordinary scene is very symbolic. Industrial infrastructures is expanding more and more, taking away space not only nature but also from people. I remember several people taking pictures of the sunset on the beach. I turned around and took my photo. Took my picture as a metaphor. People usually don't see dangers of industrial expansions, the pollution that surround us. They are busy with other things. This is highly symbolic to me. This photograph is not going to change the world probably, but it provokes conversation, show that we should be always aware of our expansion. It's many turn again us. Thank you very much.
Thank you also. Here we have the third winning picture of the competition. Thank you very much, Elisabetta, Florian, and Janus, for inspiring the world. Now, after the insights from the Minamata movie filmmaker Andrew Levitas and the winners of the Make Mercury History Photo Contest, let's move on to the round table to delve into the role of photography in driving positive change and fostering deeper commitment to preserving human health and environment from the toxic effects of mercury. We have also here with us representatives of the jury who contributed to the arduous task of selecting the winners in each category and the finalists of the competition. Christian Hofer is here with us. He's a Senior External Affairs Officer at the Global Environment Facility in Washington, D.C., with over 20 years of experience in international communications for the Swiss government, the World Bank, and the JEF. He mainly works on multimedia, publications, photo and video production, has produced many environmental documentaries around the world, and is in charge of visuals of any kind of the JEF outreach products. Christian, welcome from it's early too in Washington, D.C.
That's fine, no worries. Thank you very much. I'm an early riser. Thank you, Anna. I'm very excited to be here, and I was very excited to be actually part of the jury. And I love art. I'm an artist by heart myself, and that helps me actually in my work at the Global Environment Facility in Washington, D.C. Because the Global Environment Facility, or in short, the GEF, is a financial mechanism for the Minamata Convention, also with other conventions, related to chemicals, for example, for the Stockholm Convention on persistent organic pollutants and others. And we work with roughly 185 countries, governments mainly, together to manage the funding that comes from the donors, usual suspects, as you can imagine, about 30 of them, to actually support environmental programs and projects around the world, right? It's about $1 billion in grants and about $7 billion in co-financing every year. And we support developing countries' governments actually to deal with these environmental challenges. It's not actually only a challenge. It's not even a crisis. It's like an environmental disaster. It's a catastrophe. And we have an obligation as a financial mechanism, because we're dealing with funding that you guys, everybody, here basically pays with their taxes, because it's public funding. So we have an accountability, and we need to talk about what we're doing in order to show the donors, for example, where their money is going. So this responsibility we need to take serious, and the way you do it is you talk about it, you share the info about what we're doing, what is being done on the ground. That's information that can be in written form or whatever, but everybody knows that we like pictures. Ever since the cavemen, right? Remember those guys, creating designs, on the walls in their caves. But when it came to information, the hunter comes back to the cave and yells, "Oh my God, there's like beautiful flowers out there, so cool." Nobody really kind of like cares, because if he comes in and says, "Oh my God, there's like a mammoth, or there's like a saber tiger, out there," it's like, "Oh my God, oh my God." That's why we like, biologically speaking, we like negative info. We like that better. And so if it comes to visuals help much more, because you have to reach the audience in a way that you can create attention with less nowadays in less than like a split second. And visuals help. Visuals are easier to convey. Pictures get closer to your emotions quicker, faster, and more efficient. And so I've been around for quite some time using photography and using then also moving images, related to movies and documentaries and videos. And in that sense, we started out early on with gloom and doom, showing the disaster out there. And then also realizing that there can be, visually speaking, there can be quite some beauty in disasters. And then the artistic side kicks in, and then you see a dead whale in terms of biodiversity, for example. We're living, in the next extinction crisis already. If it comes to biodiversity, you look at a dead whale, it can create emotions, and it can actually reach the people and make them think. So we don't only want donors to continue their effort, to continue their funding, but we also want to reach, for example, them as human beings. And so when the artists kick in, then I look at the close-up of an open belly of a dead whale, and then you see an amazing composition in it. There's lines, there's shades of colors and all kinds of things, right? And so with these pictures, for example, that we saw, the photography, we see, amazing artistic concepts in it. And so you can look at the chimneys, for example, these red and white chimneys. They're actually, they look exactly the same as other chimneys, for example, that were used in the Minamata film. And you see some of them are smoking and some of them are not. And it shows that like there's a transition, there's like a progress going on. Some, some work is being done. So with this picture, for example, by Janusz, you can tell that there's progress in it, right? But then you also see the people. So you see the difference between the static composition of these of these stellars, of the pillars, of the chimneys, and then you see the human aspect in front of it. The humans are turning their backs towards the disaster or like the bad stuff, right? They're positive. We can relate to the people much more than we can relate to the chimneys. And then what I was fascinated about in this photography, actually, in this photograph in particular, is that you see that they are resilient. There's a sense of adaptation of humans vis-a-vis a negative development or a negative situation. They still are on the beach. They still, they might breathe some polluted air. They might have just taken a bath, in the water that is polluted, just like the Italian lagoon or the Minamata Bay area. And they're drying themselves off, so they try to get rid of it. And even the man actually holds the towel, in front of his head. I'm sure he would just wanted to dry his face, but maybe also it's like a symbol, it's a metaphor of, trying to protect himself from the polluted air and from getting sick. And so all in all, I would say that visually speaking, we can be very creative. We have to, because otherwise in all that noise that's out there, talking about all different kind of things, we have an obligation. We want to reach the people. We need to break through. We need to cut through that noise and make ourselves heard. And that's also because we owe it to the people who suffer most, which is usually not the people in the West. They do too, but it's actually the people in the South, the most vulnerable people that have the least skills and the least tools, the least means actually to deal with that. And so it is very important that we, across the spectrum, we think of about all of these different kind of aspects when we use visuals, photography, and moving images for our outreach work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christian, for sharing your views, the means of raising more awareness of environmental crisis through images, and also giving your insights from your artistic eye and for recalling our obligation accountability. Now we will move to Ken Davis, who is also part to the jury of this contest. Ken Davis is a policy and technical expert specializing in the role of science in multilateral environmental cooperation. He has worked on transboundary environmental issues in Ukraine, negotiated the Minamata Convention on Mercury as part of the US delegation, and currently manages projects on reducing mercury using artisanal mining as part of UNEP, and he also coordinates the Global Mercury Partnership. Welcome, Ken. And let me ask that your daily work runs managing artisanal and small-scale gold mining projects. Would you share your views about the selected ASGN pictures?
Sure, Anna. Hi. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be part of this event, and it's an honor to share the stage with the winning photographers and with Andrew Levitas, the director of Minamata. And it was a pleasure to be on the jury for this event. There were so many good submissions, so it was a real challenge. And I wanted to highlight a couple of the finalists that not among the winning three, but a couple really good photos nonetheless that spoke to me as someone who works a lot on this issue of artisanal and small scale gold mining. And well, artisanal and small scale gold mining, I think in Mercury, it's unique. It's the largest source of mercury pollution. It's an activity that affects millions and millions of people, up to 100 million people, if you include those in the communities that are part of artisanal and small scale gold mining, and something that's really linked with development, with human rights, of course, with pollution, with biodiversity. So I think it's no surprise that we got some really great photos. So one of the finalist photos I wanted to talk about was this one called Shining Danger, which was by James Wakibia, and it was taken in Kenya. Yeah, there it is up on the screen. So here it's a picture of an artisanal miner who's been mixing mercury with this concentrate of gold and other minerals to try to use the mercury to remove the gold. And he or she is now pouring that mercury, which has some small amounts of golds mixed in with it, from the pan into a cloth. And having seen this type of thing before, then the next thing will happen is they'll wring that cloth out, and mercury droplets will come through the tiny holes in the cloth, and they'll be left with a solid ball of amalgam, which will then be heated, and mercury will be evaporated, and that will go into the air, a real toxic risk for people around it. And then there'll be a tiny bit of gold left over. So what struck me about this photograph, for one thing, is the mercury, the substance, the element. I think this photograph captures the mystery and even sort of beauty of this substance that has captivated people for thousands of years. I mean, from antiquity through alchemy and to anyone who's maybe of this generation before mine, but when they used to play with mercury in school. And there is a this is a weird thing, a liquid metal that's quite striking. But if you look at the title of the picture, Shining Danger, I think that captures what this is. This is a toxic material, and it's a danger. It's going to be a danger when that mercury amalgam is evaporated, and people breathe it in, and then when that mercury is spread around the world and makes its way into our ecosystems. So that's one photograph from among the finalists. The other one is called Responsible Gold Extraction. So maybe we can take a look at that one too. And this one is from Betty Obo, and it was taken in Uganda. And this is also artisanal and small scale gold mining, but there's a contrast here, judging from the title and also from what's going on in the photo. This is from a mercury-free type of practice for artisanal and small scale gold mining. And what these two women are doing is they're taking a close look at the material in a pan after panning to get rid of most of the other minerals. They're looking at the small amount of gold that they got, and maybe they'll do some more panning, and eventually be left with a very small concentrate, which then they can further smelt to get the gold out. And here they're not using mercury. They're using a concentration only mercury-free technique. And for me, this highlights that, of course, mercury is still widely used in artisanal small-scale gold mining, but it is possible to do mercury-free mining. It is possible to do responsible mining, and this is, for example, one of the type of mining that we promote in the Planet Gold program, funded by Jeff and led by UNEP. So this is inspirational. This is reminding me that it is possible to do to move to mercury-free techniques, and they can even provide better recovery, more efficient recovery of gold if the techniques are applied properly. So these are two photos that struck out among the finalists. There were many great finalists, of course, but as someone who works on artisanal small-scale gold mining, these are the thoughts that I wanted to share with you. So back to you now, Anna, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak to you all today.
Thank you very much, Ken, for your insights and the work you do to promote mercury-free techniques in ASGM. We will go now back to Andrew. I hope that you are still awake here. And we wanted to ask you, the story of Minamata continues, as we mentioned, to resonate today as the world faces numerous environmental challenges. What lessons from the Minamata tragedy do you think are most relevant for us in addressing current environmental crisis?
Sure. I think addressing these things and finding honesty and transparency in the beginning, which is an enormous challenge, of course, but I think that's the key. The deeper I got into this particular story, the more it became clear both to patients, victims, families, and anyone observing was that there was a moment when people knew. And the deepest tragedy really was not the mistake or the accident or the fact that when there was an unknown, people were injured or killed. The deepest tragedy was that once people knew and once it was clear what was happening, that there were still cover-ups and groups fighting in different directions instead of just identifying that this was happening and why it was happening and trying to change stream. And I think, one of the great things just inside of what we're talking about today is a lot of these issues, a lot of these ongoing battles are happening in a way where they are being captured by photographers, they are being captured by the media. And there's something quite refreshing about it just being seen. And facts are, there was a blip a few years ago where facts didn't seem to matter anymore, but it seems that we are back to a time where facts do matter, thank goodness. And I think the biggest takeaway is that people can rise up and be heard. And I think the other big takeaway is that we all are really connected. Each of these supposed issues or scenarios are spread around the globe, but to me, the biggest takeaway is that we are all being victimized by the way that our society has chased certain financial goals. And we really, as a global community, have to stop allowing ourselves to be viewed as, the parts per million, really, and truly recognize that we collectively are the millions. We're everybody. Everybody is being impacted in some way, and that in one way or another, it's the same issue, right? It's about responsibility, and it's about pushing forward for a healthier, safer, better world, a world that can sustain us.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think that we all here share the common view about the importance, of photography on driving action, but most importantly of the responsibility that we all have as citizens on addressing these issues, raising our voice in our different capacities. But thank you again very much, Andrew, also for shedding the light on this global concern of mercury pollution through your heart touching, because it is heart touching. I've seen it twice and I cried it twice. And your inspiration of Minamata. And thank you also, Elisabetta, Florian, Janus, and all the finalists for your captivating images on such a complex topic. Thank you, Christian, Ken, and the other jury members and the participants for your commitment to make Mercury history. And also thanks, Pablo, for taking good care of this session, the pictures, and the exhibition. We have reached the time. Thank you all for your participation. But before we leave, I have some very quick announcements. The virtual exhibition of the Make Mercury History Photo Contest is promoted on our website. So we invite you to visit and enjoy the beauty and think about what's being captivated on them. The winners and the finalists will also have their photographs showcased in a physical photo exhibition from the 30th of October to the 3rd of November during the Minamata Convention COP5 in Geneva. And if you haven't yet seen the Minamata film, it will be screened and open to the public at COP5 in Geneva with a panel discussion. So stay tuned, keep celebrating World Environment Day, and wishing you a good rest of the day. Thank you again for your time and your engagement. Bye.